You're born in a gyre on the frozen steppe. Animal hides wrap your body while a fire crackles between felt walls. Outside, 300 mounted warriors hold a perimeter in the dark, their horses breathing clouds of white into the Mongolian winter. Your father commands 100,000 men, the largest cavalry force the world has ever seen. Your first cry mixes with wood smoke and the cold smell of iron. Throat singers compose verses with your name. Fermented mare's milk flows through the great camp. You are the firstborn son of Temujin, the man history will remember as Genghis Khan. But there's something else moving through the camp, a whisper. Your mother was captured by the Merkit tribe months before your birth. Your father waged war to get her back. He succeeded. Then you arrived. No one says it directly. Everyone counts the months. You are 3 days old and your blood is already in question. You didn't choose this lineage, and now it may not even be yours. Your childhood unfolds across an empire that never stops moving. The great camp relocates with the seasons. 10,000 gyres dismantled and rebuilt across grasslands that stretch beyond comprehension. You ride before you can properly walk. Your first horse is gifted to you at 3, a sturdy Mongol pony chosen by your father's stable master. You learn to grip the mane before you learn to hold a spoon. You have everything a child of the steppe could want. Chinese silk lines your family's gur. Persian carpets cover the ground where you sleep. Captured artisans from conquered cities craft gold ornaments for your saddle. Herds of horses, cattle, and sheep move in columns so long they blur into the horizon. You remember standing at the edge of the camp once, watching the animals disappear into the grass, and thinking the world had no walls. But there is always the Kishig, your father's imperial guard, 10,000 men rotating in shifts day and night. They surround the great camp like a living wall. You cannot walk 50 paces without an armed escort. You don't play with ordinary children. Your companions are the sons of generals and loyal Noyans, boys who look at you not as a friend but as something they've been told to respect. You are 6 years old and already isolated by a hierarchy you didn't build. You have the entire horizon. You have no freedom inside it. At 9, the whisper finds you directly. Other children in the camp repeat what they've heard from their fathers. Merkit blood. They don't say it to your face. They don't need to. You hear it in the pauses between their words, in the way certain commanders' sons glance at each other when you approach. You ask your mother. Berta is a woman of absolute composure, the kind of stillness that comes from surviving things she will never describe to you. She tells you the truth, or her version of it. She was taken. Your father waged war to bring her back. You were born after. You are Temujin's son. Her eyes close the subject with a firmness that forbids further questions. You want to believe her because you need to believe her. But you've noticed how certain Noyans look at you when they think you aren't watching. It's not hatred. It's calculation. Your father's response is not comfort. It's acceleration. Your training intensifies beyond anything your brothers endure. Riding, archery, wrestling, command exercises. You must outperform Chagatai, Ogade, Tolui in every discipline. You have to be beyond question, he tells you, not reassurance, instruction. Around the same time, you meet Shigi Kutuk, your father's adopted brother, chief judge of the empire, keeper of the records. A precise, quiet man who writes everything in Uyghur script on wooden tablets and never looks entirely at ease. He teaches you the Yasa, the legal code that holds 40 nations under one system. He teaches you census methods, tribute calculations, military logistics. Your father conquers with the sword, he explains one afternoon, adjusting a tablet on his knee. But the sword rusts without the record. At 16, your father summons you to the great camp for a formal assembly. Thousands of warriors arrange themselves in mounted columns across the steppe. Banners of yak tail and horsehair snap in the wind. The Noyans dismount and kneel in sequence as your father rides through. He assigns you a tumen, 10,000 men. Your brothers receive their own commands. The empire is pushing west into Khwarezmia, and every son has a role. Command as I would, your father tells you in front of the assembled generals. Hesitation is weakness. Weakness invites rebellion. The men nod. You are 16 and responsible for more soldiers than most kings will ever see. You ride west with your 10,000. The scale of the operation defies anything your childhood prepared you for. Supply trains stretch for miles. Captured Chinese and Persian engineers managed siege equipment you couldn't have imagined. Herds of remount horses follow the army like a second nation on the move. Your first siege is a fortified city on the Khwarezmian frontier. You watch the machinery work. Catapults, fire arrows, rivers diverted to flood defensive walls. The city falls in 11 days. What follows is not chaos, it's protocol. Artisans are separated and cataloged. Soldiers are executed in rows. Civilians are distributed as labor across the empire's territories. You think you should feel something more than you do. That thought disturbs you more than the scene itself. You issue the orders because that is what's expected. Shigi Kutuk's administrators follow behind your army, counting everything. The dead, the captured, the usable, the record never stops. You enter Bukhara 3 days after it falls. The city held 200,000 people before your army arrived. It had madrasas where scholars debated mathematics, bazaars where merchants traded silk and lapis lazuli, irrigation systems that turned desert into gardens. Astronomers mapped the stars from its towers. Now the streets are silent. Smoke drifts from structures that burned for 2 days. You ride past a row of homes where families lived ordinary lives a week ago. A courtyard still has bread cooling on a stone ledge. Children's sandals sit arranged by a doorway no one will walk through again. These people worried about debts, marriages, the price of grain. They planned meals. They argued with neighbors. They never imagined you. You watch a merchant and his wife and children being processed by one of your commanders. The merchant was probably respected in this city. He probably had friends who came to his home for tea and conversation. Now he and his family are assigned as labor to a Noyan who will never learn his name. Your father rewards your campaign. 30,000 households of subjects, territories stretching to the Aral Sea, herds numbering in the thousands, captured gold measured in tons. At 18, you control more land than most European kings. You didn't earn it through wisdom or negotiation. You earned it because your father dismantled civilizations and your blood carries his name. Or it might not. Everything he gives you is simultaneously a reward and a leash. You accept because refusal does not exist in your father's vocabulary. At 20, you govern your own territory. You have a court, advisors, commanders who answer to you. Your Jur palace is lined with silk taken from Samarkand. You eat from Chinese porcelain served by Persian attendants. From the outside, you look like a king. For a brief period, you almost believe it yourself. You try to govern as something other than a destroyer. You establish trade routes connecting the western steppe to the Khwarezmian merchant roads your army didn't entirely obliterate. You resettle displaced populations. You manage tribute systems, adjudicate disputes between Noyans, organize census counts the way Shigi taught you. You're capable. Your education was designed for exactly this. You begin to think that maybe this is the part where the inheritance becomes yours on your own terms. It isn't. Your father's Darugachi are embedded in your court. Imperial overseers who report every decision directly to the Great Camp. You can command 30,000 men, but you cannot appoint a minor official without approval from a rider who arrives carrying your father's seal. Shigi Kutuku visits during a spring migration. He reviews your census records, corrects your taxation methods, nods with something close to admiration. Then the admiration drains from his face and something older settles in. I built the system that counts every family, every horse, every grain store from China to Persia, he tells you, staring at his own hands. I cannot leave it any more than a bone can leave the body. You try to reduce tribute for certain conquered populations. You spare skilled workers your commanders want eliminated. Word reaches your father. His response is silence. The silence is worse than any punishment he could name. You rule a territory larger than France. You are less free than the poorest shepherd grazing his animals inside it. At 25, the Kurultai is called. The assembly gathers on the steppe near the Onan River, inside a tent large enough to hold 300 men. The air is thick with sweat, fermented milk, and the smoke of oil lamps. Your brothers are present. Commanders from every corner of the empire sit in ranked rows on felt mats, their weapons laid beside them. The question of succession has to be settled. Chagatai speaks first. He doesn't address you. He addresses the assembly. We will not be ruled by murkit blood. The words land like a blade on stone. The tent goes silent. You feel the heat of the lamps on your skin and the weight of every pair of eyes that refuses to meet yours. Your father watches from his raised seat. He does not intervene. He does not defend you. The compromise is announced days later. Ogadei, the third son, will be named heir. Not you, not Chagatai. The whisper that followed you from your first breath has reached its verdict. You return to your territory. The distance between you and your father becomes geographic, not just emotional. He sends a summons months later. You delay. You claim illness. Both of you understand what the delay means. Reports reach you through loyal men. Your father has discussed what to do about Jochi. The phrasing offers no comfort. Nights alone in your chair, wind pressing against the felt walls, you catalog what you've become. Conqueror, governor, exile. You've razed cities, ordered executions, built roads over the graves of people who had names you never learned. You are 25 and you feel ancient. Shiggy sends a coded message, carried by a rider who traveled 14 days to reach you. Return to your father. And the record must remain clean. You recognize the administrator's voice in every careful word. What he means is, if you don't go back, the record will call you traitor. And the record is the only thing that outlasts any of you. Your father is 63. He has conquered more territory than any human in recorded history. His empire stretches from the Pacific coast to the Caspian Sea, and he struggles to mount his horse. The Keshig steady him by the elbow, two men lifting without appearing to lift. He grips the saddle with hands that once drew a bow strong enough to kill at 500 paces. The hands tremble now. He pretends they don't. Everyone pretends. Reports arrive from the great camp through men who still consider you worth informing. Your father is planning an assault on Western Jia. His mind remains sharp. His body has decided otherwise. 5 assassination attempts, a poisoned arrow that never fully healed, decades of sleeping in armor on frozen ground. The cost of empire is written in the deep lines of his face and in the way he inspects every entrance before stepping through it. You want to feel pity. What you feel instead is recognition. This is your preview. If you survive your brothers, if you outlast your father's suspicion, this is what awaits. A man who owns the world and trusts no one inside it. The mathematics of your future reduced to 3 outcomes. Assassination, capture by enemies, or slow erosion into paranoid old age. There are no other endings in this inheritance. Shiggy Kutuk writes to you one final time, the ink unsteady. I have recorded the conquests of 40 nations and counted the dead of 20 campaigns. I cannot count my own regrets. The record is complete. I wish it weren't. You think about your sons, Batu, Orda. They watch you the way you once watched your father. They study your silences the way you once studied his. The cycle is already turning. You die in your territory, far from the great camp. You are approximately 45. The circumstances contradict themselves depending on who tells the story. Some accounts say illness took you slowly. Some say your father sent riders who arrived in the night. The record that Shiggy spent his life perfecting cannot agree on how yours ends. Even your death belongs to the whisper. Your father receives the news in his campaign tent. He does not publicly mourn. He continues planning his assault on Western Xia, studying maps by lamplight as if nothing has changed. 6 months later, he dies on that campaign, falling from a horse his body could no longer control. The man who conquered the world from the saddle never once confirmed whether you were his son. Your sons divide your territory. Batu rides west and builds the Golden Horde, an empire that will outlast the memory of how it began. He will be powerful, feared, and trapped by the same name that trapped you. Orda holds the eastern lands. They inherit everything. The territory, the commands, the question. Somewhere on the steppe, in a chair warmed by a single fire, the felt walls blocking a winter that never ends, another child is born into the bloodline. Warriors wait outside. The arithmetic starts again. You were the Conqueror's firstborn. You had everything except proof that you belonged. You were feared across continents, but never certain of your own father's love. Every horizon was yours, and every horizon was a wall. The cruelest part is that the steppe was all you ever knew. You were heir to everything and owner of nothing, not even your own name.